Hi, I'm Susan Howard, the Director of Osher at Johns Hopkins University. I've been with this program for 23 years and I've seen a lot of changes. Welcome to the Osher at JHU 2019 Fall Preview. We have a wonderful lineup of classes for you for the fall. We have classes in the sciences, in the arts, in politics, we have music classes, and we have literature classes. And I think we've covered all the bases. I'm sure you'll be able to find something that you'd like. We're a community of learners at Osher at JHU. We not only take advantage of learning opportunities, we socialize together and we form friendships that extend from the classroom and the lunchroom to the community. We have some very helpful staff here at Osher at JHU. We have such helpful staff here at Osher at JHU. You just never know what you're going to find them doing. Oh, here comes Emily with the coffee cart.
Hi.
Shelley should do something with books.
All right, Shelley,
because she's the library. Give her a whole pile of them. So here comes Shelley. She's very helpful with library services.
Hello.
Ah, this is a good book, Shelley. As a matter of fact, I just read this yesterday. Today I'm looking for Kathy Cook. Let's see, she should be somewhere here in her office. I don't see her anywhere. There she is. Hi, Kathy.
Hi. We just finished putting out the next semester's schedule. It's full of great courses with terrific faculty. Something for everyone. I love answering questions about our programming. I'll have to do it again. Can we do it again? Topics. I love answering questions about Osher at JHU and welcoming people to our community. I hope you'll join us this fall. Hi, I'm Kathy Cook. I'm the program coordinator for Osher at JHU.
So once again, welcome to the Fall 2019 Osher at JHU preview. We look forward to seeing you in the fall semester.
Hello everyone, my name is Saul Lilienstein. I'm going to be teaching a course called Music of Old Russia, Part 1.
Hi, I'm Stan Levin. The course I'm teaching in the fall has a provocative title of Sex in the Cinema.
I'm Jim Blue. I've been teaching Shakespeare here for half a dozen years, and I'm not done yet. Been working my way through from comedies, through histories, through the tragedies, and now it's time for one of the greatest tragedies, King Lear. It's the story of what happens when a guy decides to retire, leaves everything to his children, and hopes everything will turn out well. Naturally, it doesn't. It's tragic. But we'll enjoy it anyhow. It's great language. Many great performances on clips. In our class, we read a bit in class and discuss the section. Then I show the clips of the same section with different movies and see what different directors, different actors do. It's not a lecture class, it's a discussion class. People really enjoy interacting with each other and me and the movies. Occasionally I get a chance to exhibit my immense erudition and my totally amusing repartee. People do seem to enjoy it and enjoy knowing other people in this small class. and I hope you will come on Tuesday mornings and join us.
I'm Robert Barchet, and I'll be teaching a course on the short stories of Nathaniel Hawthorne and James Joyce. Tuesday morning, fall semester, 10 to 12. As some of you may know, Hawthorne does not write realistically. He's considered a romantic writer. He writes in fables and allegories, and someone might say surrealistically as well. But he's able to penetrate some of the darkest secrets of the human heart. He is the one who coined the term, the unpardonable sin. What is the unpardonable sin? You'll have to take my course to find out. James Joyce, on the other hand, though he writes very differently, as a naturalist, very realistically, also penetrates the dark side of the human heart. But his short stories, I'm glad to say, are very accessible and very readable. They were the first published prose that he ever attempted, unlike some of his later impenetrable novels. And we will go over them very carefully and see what the two authors have in common and what they don't have in common.
Hi, I'm Dr. Ken Hinga. We'll be teaching an oceanography course this fall. It's introductory oceanography. We'll be looking at oceanography much the same way that a student who just finished an undergraduate degree in one of the sciences would be introduced to the broader reach of oceanography. We'll start by looking at the geology of the ocean, the geological processes that create the ocean basin. Then we'll move over to the chemistry of the ocean. Why is the ocean salty? Then we'll move to physical oceanography, which is waves, tides, water movements, circulation of the ocean, where the water moves from and to. Then we'll see how those all tie together to explain the distribution of biology in the ocean. We'll look at some basic food chains in the ocean. We'll look at where fisheries in the ocean are rich, why they're rich in certain areas and almost an ocean desert in other places. Along the way, we'll look at some of the tools oceanographers use, and can't help but looking at a few of the interesting and exotic creatures that live on the bottom of the ocean. And that is what makes oceanography different than many sciences, is that you have to wrap all those different sciences together.
My name is Mel Goodman, and I've been teaching a course in international relations at Hopkins for the past 20 years. What I like to do in the course is take advantage of my background, which includes work with the Central Intelligence Agency, the Department of State, and the Department of Defense, and the United States Army, to discuss issues of international relations. And I think this is a particularly challenging time to teach such a course because of the 2 years of the Trump administration, which have really dealt serious challenges to the field of national security. So we'll look at regional issues and the impact of Trump on our policy toward the Middle East, toward Asia, toward Russia, and particularly toward Europe and the European Alliance and the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. But we'll also deal with functional issues, important issues such as climate change and the impact of climate change on national security. And finally, we'll look at domestic public opinion, particularly domestic public opinion as it concerns national security in terms of the defense budget, the size of the defense budget, whether or not we need to continue military deployments on an international basis. And I will take advantage of the first hour and have the second hour for discussion and debate.
Hi, I'm Steve Friedman. Yes, I'm the Broadway musical guy that everybody loves to come here talk about Broadway musicals. Well, this fall, we're going to do something that I think will be really exciting. We're going to look at the Broadway musical masters. They're the people like George Abbott, who helped us find Jerome Robbins and tied Leonard Bernstein to him, and then even Hal Prince. And we're going to explore the musicals that some of these great musical masters like George Abbott, like David Merrick, and Hal Prince created to change the American musical theater scene. It's a really neat thing to figure out how did a cabaret happen or how did a Hello Dolly happen, and it wasn't just because somebody got some money together to put on a show. So let's explore some of these really great masters this fall, and I might even sing a song or two if you ask me the nice way. So sign up, let's join in, and I can't wait to see you when the fall starts.
Hello everyone, my name's Rick Bell and I'm teaching a short course called Ordinary Lives in the American Revolution. When we think of the American Revolution, we typically think first about the founding fathers, the rich white men whose names and faces appear on the coins in our pocket, the banknotes in our wallets, and even on the monuments in downtown Washington, D.C. But the history of the American Revolution is actually much richer. And in this short course, we're going to focus on a much broader cast of characters, not just the leaders, but also some of the lesser known figures as well. We're going to try and include women and some non-white people as well, as we try to understand how we go from 1763, when the colonists feel more British and prouder of being British than ever before, to 1776, where they're engaged in an all-out war for independence. You may have noticed that I have a British accent, and sometimes that can be a help or even a hindrance when teaching the history of the American Revolution. But I hope whatever you think of this accent as a teaching tool, you'll recognize that there's a lot more to learn about the American Revolution when we consider it from the perspective of ordinary people, the people on the ground who work together to build a mass movement, a genuine revolution. I hope to see you in my class.
Hi, I'm Stan Levin. The course I'm teaching in the fall has a provocative title of Sex in the Cinema. The stories of men, women, and temptation are as old as the Bible, older actually, and it's no surprise that the art of ancient Greece and Rome were erotic. In the early days of cinema, even experimenters like Edward Muybridge, to capture movement, was capturing movements of naked women. What a surprise. So it's not surprising to me that as this new art form was developing, they were trying to find a way to attract audiences, and what better way than the human form. We're going to be looking at films with Theda Bara, the first film sex goddess, or Mae West, who charged the cinema so sexually that eventually they had to pass laws to prevent that kind of provocative film experience. That didn't stop the filmmakers. We're going to be looking at test cases like Double Dynamite starring Jane Russell, and you can imagine how that movie got its title. We also are going to be dealing with Marilyn Monroe. Yes, there was objectification of women and men, but as the film industry developed, there were also interests in even heavier pornography, believe it or not. And you have a film like Deep Throat that became a test case. Test case for what, you ask? The First Amendment. So we're going to be looking at film clips during the semester. What were the social mores that were violated or that were changed? This promises to be a very interesting class, and I hope you can attend. Thank you.
Hi everybody, my name is Richard Letterman, and I'll be teaching a course in the fall that I'm calling The Complete Gilgamesh. Now, many of us may have read Gilgamesh, some of us read it in college, but the truth is that the version that we read in college is only one version of Gilgamesh. It's what we call the standard version that we found in the library of the Assyrian king Ashurbanipal from the 7th century BCE. There are actually many, many stories about Gilgamesh that go all the way back to the 20th century BCE, 4,000 years ago. And we see many of the themes of the hero that we know from our own civilization. Things like finding a loyal sidekick, taking a perilous journey, like the journey that Gilgamesh took to find Utnapishtim, the Mesopotamian Noah, fighting monsters, sexuality and the lure of a beautiful woman, like the goddess Ishtar in the story of Gilgamesh. But ultimately, the story of Gilgamesh is a story of the great achievements of the urban civilizations of ancient Mesopotamia. But finally, it is also the paradox of human mortality and the despair that human mortality engenders. It's going to be a really interesting course. I hope to see you there.
Hi, my name is Jim Applebaum. I'm the moderator of the Essays Discussion Group. You want to have fun? You want to read some things that move you? Do you want to test your ideas out, your reaction out with other people? People who perhaps you've never met before? Do you want to listen to them in an atmosphere of kind of cozy familiarity? Well, that's what we're all about. The Essays Discussion Group has been around for 22 years. It's a group that people walk away from and say, we read some interesting things. I shared my ideas. I may not have liked the ideas of a few other people, but everybody was respectful. And we walked away and we learned something and we had fun. And that's what the Essays Discussion Group is all about. I look forward to your interest and perhaps seeing you there.
Hello, my name is Andrea Baruchin, and this fall I'm going to be teaching the third iteration of my course called Your Brain in Your World. I hope you'll join us for this exploration of how your brain interacts with your world in many different ways. As I've done in the past, I'll be teaching the first session. It's a primer on neuroanatomy and neurophysiology, mostly just to present terminology that you'll be hearing later on during the course. The other 5 sessions of the course will be taught by guest speakers that I'll be bringing in from various places around the district and Maryland and some other places as well. Hopefully we're going to have a great parade of lecturers. We're going to be touching topics such as emotions in the brain, cancer in the brain, hopefully religion in the brain, technology in the brain, and some others. So I hope you'll join us for this exploration into the fascinating world of you and your brain and your interactions with the world. Thank you.
Greetings, mystery lovers. I'm Melinda Kramer, and I'm here to talk to you about our fall offering in mystery and detective fiction. So we're doing International Intrigues 2. We're going to do 5 really outstanding international authors. And all of these authors have lived in the countries they are writing about or have visited them extensively. So let me just run down the list and tell you who we're going to be talking about. We're going to go to Denmark and read Jussi Adler-Olsen. We're going to do The Scarred Woman. Then we'll be going to Botswana and reading one of the books that I'm sure many of you have called favorite. We're going to do Alexander McCall Smith's The #1 Ladies Detective Agency. Then we're going to move to Italy and read Donna Leone, and we will be looking at Blood from a Stone. And then somebody new to me that was introduced to me by one of the students, Batya Gur, who is Israeli and has written a really great detective fiction novel called Bethlehem Road Mystery. There are 2 other things that I need to tell you. We're going to have a guest speaker, or maybe 2 guest speakers, who are retired from the State Department. And the last thing to know is we're going to move the class from the second 6 weeks to the first 6 weeks. Same day, Tuesday, same time, 1 to 3 in the afternoon, but first half of the term instead of the second half. So I look forward to seeing all of you there.
My name is Courtney Marks, and I will be teaching the Ancient Egyptian Mummification class this coming fall. I became interested in ancient Egypt when I was 10 years old, and it's about 20 years later, and I still have a very strong passion for ancient Egypt that I hope will come across in the class. In the class, we'll be using some modern media representations of ancient Egypt, as well as mummies, and we can use these media representations to evaluate some of the actual Egyptian practices that revolve around their funerary rituals. And we can hopefully start to piece out some of the not so correct ways that mummies in ancient Egypt are represented in our own culture. Ancient Egyptian art is a complicated subject, but I hope that by utilizing movies and different books, we can kind of bring it down into a more approachable class. Ancient Egyptian art is very based in ritual, and I'm hoping that the context will really help everyone to kind of understand the reasons why the ancient Egyptians practiced mummification. So I hope to see you this coming fall in the Ancient Egyptian Mummification class.
Hi, my name is Nora Hammerman, and I'm teaching the Caravaggio Revolution this fall. And this is a bit of a departure from everything that I've done up till now, because I have concentrated on the Renaissance and a very famous artist like Rembrandt. And with Caravaggio, we're coming into somebody who's really controversial. Even in his own time, there were people who loved him, there were people who hated him, no one was indifferent. But many people have asked me over the years when I'm going to teach Caravaggio. Now, Caravaggio lived at the end of the 16th century and into the early 17th century in Rome. He mostly does religious paintings, few portraits. He was revolutionary in the sense that he brought religious painting out of the idealism of previous ages and onto the streets, into the dirt and the muck and the violence of everyday life of the Rome in which he lived. And it reached people, it reached into people's hearts, and I think it still does. He also had an enormous impact on the future history of European painting. There's not an artist after him, down even to the 19th century, who wasn't in some way impacted by Caravaggio. So I'm looking forward to sharing all of that controversy and excitement with my students.
Hello, my name is Roger Braniet, and the course is Sacred and Secular, the Arts of Faith and Doubt. I'm interested in every kind of art, visual, architecture, music, literature, that have got some sort of inspiration in personal faith or institutional faith. This can be Christian faith, it can be Jewish, it can be Islamic, and I'm even going to look at some cultures that are right outside that tradition. I'm also particularly interested in the gray areas around the edges where sacred blurs into secular. What happens when the Renaissance, for example, brings intellect into the question? What happens in the 20th century where the horrors of wars and the Holocaust almost erase faith altogether? What happens with a secular artist who is not religious at all, but nonetheless feels there's some higher value to be aiming at? A little bit about myself quickly. I should say that I am the son of two evangelists, but as a teenager, I abandoned identification with that faith and have now become what I would call an ecumenical, inquiring agnostic. This is a result of that inquiry.
Hi, Bob Hines. I'm here again for the fall semester, teaching this time the long-range and short-range causes of the French Revolution leading all the way to the empire. It's ironic that we start off with a single-party state of one-person ruler, and at the end we end up with a single person ruling again with Napoleon. So this is really the unique aspect about this. I'm going to start in the North American origins. Actually, you would think if you came into my first class, I was teaching the 7 Years' War, but the French and British struggle for North America paved the way for ultimate indebtedness and political struggles and ideologies that paid so strongly into the French Revolution. And then we will go into the various phases of the French Revolution, and it seems like after the first year and a half, the revolution was over, everything had been accomplished, we had a constitutional monarchy, and how did it keep on going and then turn to such great bloodshed? And so the complexities of that, increasing radicalization, extremism, polarization of the political process, and so that will give rise to the collapse of the French Republic and eventually to the rise of Bonaparte.
Hi, fellow Osherites, Roland Fraser here. I've been renewed for a third season. Yes, the history of photography returns for another exciting and informative 6 weeks of content. We will be looking at iconic photographs from 1940 until 1970. Do you remember this picture? How about this one? Which is the real one? This one. And of course, this one. We will be looking at these and other images that define our childhood and our development. So come join me for first 6 weeks of the fall semester, but wait, there's more. I will be reprising my original History of Photography survey course at the Columbia campus during the second 6 weeks of the fall semester. Hope to see you there.
But in 1979, the Ayatollah Khomeini took over in Iran.
But wait a minute.
And this is important.
Why are you uncomfortable with what I said?
I am uncomfortable because it conveys an impression that Kissinger would have been even successful in the new period of the Middle East, when the Iranians occupied a position totally different from what the Shah had occupied.
In other words, you're not uncomfortable, you're how to put it, amplifying my comments.
Only in the most respectful manner.
In that sense, continue.
Hi, I'm Bob Clark, and this fall, 2019, I'll be teaching a European history class on Europe between 1919 and 1939, the 20 years between World War I and World War II. We'll be talking about the developments and events that occurred during that 20-year period that led up to the outbreak of World War II. Some of our topics will be the peace treaties of Paris at the end of the war, the Roaring Twenties, the Depression and its impact, the rise of dictatorships in Russia, Italy, Germany, and the specific events that caused the outbreak of the war. Unlike previous classes, we will not be starting at 12:30, we'll be starting at 1 o'clock. 20 years is too short a time period to select Hollywood-type movies to show, so we'll be starting at the usual time for all the classes, 1 o'clock. I look forward to seeing you then. Thank you.
I'm Joan Angelo Adams, and I hope you'll join us for Forging a New Nation, 1790 to 1820. This is a continuation of looking at the men and women that helped to forge our country. It's a look at the Constitution, how it was being worked out, internal growth and external growth. Some exciting individuals during this time. Dolly Madison, who becomes known as the first Lady of our country, and many other men and women who were important in the internal and external growth of our country. Of course, we'll have to talk about Alexander Hamilton. So I hope you all join us. We can have a good time together exploring this, and maybe we'll learn about people that were left out of our history books back when we were in high school. Thank you.
Okay, hello, my name is Mary Dutterer, and I am a professor at Prince George's Community College and Howard Community College. I teach English and film, and what I'm looking to do for you guys in the fall is a class on the Coen brothers. One of the things that we will be focusing on in this class is that we're going to be looking at genre studies. And one of the interesting things that I find about genre studies is that it's a very easy way for people to classify movies. And one of the things that the Coen brothers do is that they actually kind of play around with genre conventions and subvert some of our notions of, say, what a Western is or what a film noir is. So we're going to be looking at movies like Blood Simple, The Man Who Wasn't There, No Country for Old Men, True Grit, just to name a few, and how the Coen brothers just have a really genuinely playful side to them when it comes to trying to engage these known genre conventions and sort of turn them on their ear. So I'm very much hoping to see you all there in the fall and meeting you.
Hi, I'm Lori Gershman, instructor this fall in Great Books, Section 1. And yet, instructor might be a bit of an overstatement in the context of this course. Why? Because Great Books is grounded in a distinctive approach to reading developed through the Great Books Foundation and called shared inquiry. What does that look like? Well, we read short stories, and for each story, typically, one member of the class will volunteer to lead the discussion by preparing and posing a series of interpretive questions. Interpretive because each question can have more than one plausible answer. These questions, and this is the key point, These questions stimulate deep reading because classmates dig deep into the stories to find evidence to support their interpretations. As we share our often differing responses to the questions, we are able to extract a tremendous amount of meaning from the text, and through the lively discussions generated by this shared inquiry approach, we also learn from each other and help to create a valued sense of community in the classroom. Come join us in Great Books, Section 1.
My name is Tim Holland, and I lead a class called Great Books 2. There's a story around the 2, but you'll learn it later. There are two things I'd like you to take away from this. Everybody comes into the class, and there's somewhere between 15 and 22 people in the class. Everybody comes into the class having read the story and having points of view about the story. The thing that is the most important for me is learning. I know the stories very well when I come in. I have questions, I've thought about it. Invariably, I learn something from the class, at least one, that I hadn't thought of. And that is a joy for me. And I think the reverse is a joy for about everybody in the class. The other thing to take away from this is laughter. We laugh a lot in my class, and they're all situational stories or not jokes, but takes on a situation or takes on a character that we can see as being very funny. So we laugh a lot, we learn a lot, we read contemporary short stories, and alternate between classic, which would be Hemingway, for example, and contemporary, which would be something that would be published in the Paris Review like last year.
We protect the community. I think a lot of what we do is public education too. I think there's an awful lot of things that we can do going out and teaching people how to protect themselves against identity theft, talking to children about how to stay out of gangs, talking to people within our school community about how we can make our schools safer places for our kids to go each day.
Education and entertainment options for a wide variety of people. Can you tell me more about what type of entertainment I'd find here?
We have pop and rock music, a wide variety of classical music options. We have jazz and musicals from Broadway, a little bit of everything.
It really is an inspiring space.
Thank you. Yes, we think so. It's always active and very creative.
Let's go.
Hello everyone, my name is Saul Lilienstein. I'm going to be teaching a course called Music of Old Russia, Part 1. The reason it's called Part 1 is because it's too vast a subject to contain in one semester, and so there'll be a Part 2 that follows that. And the vastness of the subject is a reflection of the vastness of the culture and even the geography of the place. And so while this course is going to be, let's say, filled with some of the most famous music in the concert and operatic repertoire that many of us know, music of Rachmaninoff and Tchaikovsky, and before them Mussorgsky and Borodin, and just, wonderful stuff. It's not just about that. It's about the culture itself. It's about the richness of its folk music. It's about the richness of the way the Orthodox Church informs all that follows it, and all of the history, all of that bloody history finds its way into this as well. And so this combination is going to be what we're going to enjoy through a semester. Now, I should tell you in advance that I've never been to Russia, but I was born in the Bronx, and that's pretty close. And half the people on my street were Stalinists, and the other half were Trotskyites. And it was a delight to see them fight.
My name is Eleanor Clift. I'm a columnist with the Daily Beast, which is an online website. I was a longtime reporter with Newsweek magazine, and I'm a political junkie. I will be teaching a course this fall titled, Can the Democrats Pick a Winner? We will be meeting beginning in September, when the sorting process will be well underway as to which of the probably 24 Democrats vying to replace President Trump, will be getting into the final weeks before the primaries get underway next year. It's a fascinating time in American politics. We'll have so much to talk about and to discuss, and the president should be vulnerable. He's never reached 50% in the polls, but he has an amazingly resilient base, and I think it's basically 50-50 as to whether he can get reelected. The Democrats have a huge challenge ahead of them in picking the right person who can inspire a country that has lost faith in its politics and its government, and that can excite young people about politics and can still win over the middle of the country and not be ensconced in the two elite coasts. So I look forward to seeing you all in the fall and hearing your points of view as we embark on this political journey together.
Hello, my name is Gidon Amir, and I'm going to teach a class on wisdom in the Bible. So the Bible talks about wisdom in many different places. For example, we have the story of Solomon. God asks him, "What do you want me to give you?" And Solomon asks for wisdom, and he's rewarded because that's all that he asked for. We also find wisdom stories and wisdom ideas in other cultures in the Near East. And therefore, that is where we will start in this course, where we will look at the biblical view of wisdom and also at other nations and other cultures. Then we will go to the main wisdom literature books in the Bible, which are the book of Job, the book of Ecclesiastes, and the book of Proverbs. And if there is still time at the end of the semester, then we will also look at some other wisdom literature beyond these three. Thank you, and I hope to see many of you in the class.
Good morning. My name is Lawrence Freeman. I'm going to be teaching the class Africa, the Sleeping Giant. Most people know very little about Africa, don't know how large it is, don't know the population, which will be about 2.5 billion people in about 20-30 years. Don't realize the diversity of cultures that crisscross the continent. Only are aware of what they see in the media, which is violence and various problems and crisis in Africa. In reality, it has an enormous rich potential which has been unutilized. I know I have visited Mali, Ethiopia, Sudan, Nigeria, Chad, and I've worked in these countries. And I think you will realize that the culture of these countries, the history that goes back several million years to the cradle of civilization, when mankind walked out of Africa about 100,000 years ago and came into the United States about 30,000 years ago. This will in many ways shock you to see all the different qualities of the African continent that most people aren't aware of because it's very limited to what you realize, what you know. Very, very few classes in Maryland are taught on African history. So this is one of 3 or 4 classes I will be teaching, and I guarantee you, you will be enthused, surprised, and enjoy my classes. I hope to see you when the semester starts. Thank you very much.
And here's Al White and Marty Stein. These are amazing members. And Al...
Oh, bless you, bless you, bless you. She's a photogenic one.
Al's the coordinator for our Osher at JHU lecture series in the fall.
Bless you.
Hi, my name is Carl Hampman. I'm the instructor, or the facilitator, if you will, for our current events class. This will be my 3rd year, starting in the fall. So I'd like to mention 2 things that are kind of a theme for me with my current events class. One is a quote attributed to the late Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but everybody is not entitled to their own facts. I think it's as relevant today as it ever was. And another point I want to make, I attribute to me, which I want to make clear to people that all reasoned opinions are welcome and will be respected by order of the management, and that's me. So not surprisingly, a current events class generally covers events in all different areas, from government and politics, media, entertainment, technical, and other, anything that I think is newsworthy and designed to produce this discussion. We also have a little humor that we introduce, usually a little political satire from the late night shows, and we have an issue of the day, such things as the death penalty, Confederate statues, and other things not tied to the week, but that I think will generate good discussion. I hope you'll consider it, and I think you'll find it interesting and enjoyable.
Hi, I'm Iris Lipkowitz. I teach ballet history and appreciation, and this fall I'll be teaching a course on the Ballet Russe. You might ask, what is this Russian ballet? These dancers and choreographers, orchestrated by Sergei Diaghilev, came out of St. Petersburg initially and spent vast periods of time in Western Europe creating, that is, choreographing and dancing key ballets in the early 20th century. After Diaghilev's death in 1929, various Ballet Russe companies continued the effort. We will watch significant pieces of choreography by the 5 major choreographers of the period. And we'll have a good time doing it. Some of the clips are very funny, and the history of this period is fascinating. So join me on Thursday afternoons and learn a lot about the Ballet Russe and its impact on 20th century choreography.
Hi, I'm Professor Zimmerman, and I'm here to introduce you to the course that I'll be teaching in the fall, Monstrosity and Metamorphosis, Imagining Animals in Early Art and Literature. We're going to begin with prehistoric art, which is what I said, the cave paintings, which are fabulously interesting, very technically sophisticated. Despite your preconceptions, it was extremely well done technically. Then we're going to move to India, the great ancient civilization of the East, which also has cave paintings. We'll take a look at a few of those. But then we're going to move on to Indian myths, because myths handed down over centuries really incorporate the values of a civilization. They're wonderful stories, but they're pregnant with meaning. And from there we'll go west to Greece, the cradle of Western civilization. And we're going to look at the Minoan and Mycenaean cultures in particular. And finally, we will look at Beowulf, which is in the English literary tradition, an Anglo-Norman epic full of battle and blood and death. So we're going to be looking at images in conjunction with them. So we'll have a big screen in the classroom. I'll put the images on while we're discussing the literature so we can go back and forth easily.
Hi, my name's Lisa Friedman, and I'm going to be teaching a course this fall called Computer Topics. We're going to be going over a hodgepodge of computer topics that I hope will be of interest to all of you. The first one is using the resources of your local public library's website. A lot of wonderful things that you can do there in the 21st century. Second topic that we're going to talk about is passwords, which a lot of people have problems with. Third topic is using Chrome, which is the #1 browser in the world. You may use another browser, but I think you'll enjoy exploring Chrome and all of its features. And then finally, we're going to be talking about podcasts, which are a type of audio file that a lot of people are listening to in the 21st century. They're produced by radio stations and also a lot of media organizations. So I hope these are topics that you're interested in. I hope to see you this fall in our Computer Topics class.
Hi, I'm Nancy Rice. I'll be leading a Thursday Great Books class, Thursday afternoons in the second 6 weeks of the semester. This is what we do. We have an assigned reading for every week. People come to class and discuss that reading. I lead the discussion, and I do that by asking questions that'll provoke thoughts and opinions from people in the class. If the work is unknown, I may give some context, background, but I don't lecture. This isn't a lecture class. Almost all of the talking is done by people in the class, and generally they have a lot to say. This is the book we'll use. It's one of the volumes of the Norton Anthology of World Literature. We will be reading works from the 19th century, authors such as Frederick Douglass and Flaubert and Chekhov, and as well as other less known authors from Brazil and China and Japan. The works may be complete, they may be short stories or plays, or they may be excerpts from a longer work. Whatever, you can figure on several hours of reading per week. The hope for any Great Books class is that class members come out of the class with a better understanding and appreciation of the work than they had when they went in. And the hope is that we have fun along the way. So if you're interested, please join us.
Hi, I'm Bruce Hirschfeld. I'm a member of Osher, and this summer I'm going to be doing the third installment of Verdi. This is going to be late Verdi, and the operas we're going to be doing are Verdi's Aida, which is the grandest of all grand operas. Verdi came out of retirement to do this opera, and it was produced and premiered in Cairo to great success. Then Verdi retired, and he came back again some years later to do Otello, based on Shakespeare's Othello. Some people think that this is as good, if not better, than Shakespeare's Othello. Then Verdi retired again, and some years later, he came back to do his final opera, which is Falstaff, based on the Merry Wives of Windsor. And it's interesting that Verdi ends his career with a comic opera when he wrote all these tragedies. This final opera is his great masterpiece. After that, I will present Verdi's Requiem, which is one of his great masterpieces, not an opera, but just as dramatic as any of his exciting operas. I'm looking forward to doing this summer, June and July. It'll be a 6-week course, and I think it'll be a lot of fun. Thank you.
Hello. I'm Nora Hammerman, and this summer I'm going to be teaching a class about great master printmaking. I'm limiting this to a small segment, actually, of the great history of Western European printmaking, just those prints which were actually made by the same person who designed them. And that excludes a lot of really wonderful things. But we're going to be talking about some of the greatest artists, which would be Albrecht Dürer, Rembrandt, Goya, Daumier, from the 15th century down to the 19th century. We will also discuss 4 different kinds of making prints: woodcuts, engravings, etchings, and finally, in the 19th century, the lithograph, which also leaves out a lot. I find this one of the most exciting classes that I've ever given. And I'm giving it because every time I bring up prints in one of my other classes, the students seem to come alive. I don't know if some of them are collectors or what it is that has people going, but I do know that some of the most interesting and important moments in the history of the last 500 years of Western art have been made by printmakers. And so I'm looking forward to this as an adventure that we will go on together.
So once again, welcome to the Fall 2019 Osher at JHU preview. We look forward to seeing you in the fall semester.